I think if your loved ones are saying go to therapy, go to therapy.
We have all these like funny stories and things with Baka, right? Like
Right.
it's comical. Even though you can have these ridiculous stories, the day-to-day is absolutely a living hell.
My few experiences with therapy were always like, so talk to me about your dad. No.
You're
Yeah.
allowed to be grateful that you have a free place to live, and you're also allowed to like acknowledge the fact that your mental health is declining rapidly.
Important to talk about with therapy is like you need to establish the guidelines for what you want out of the therapy and speak up for yourself.
Yeah.
Do not let someone take the reins and be like, so tell me about your childhood.
I can't take coming home from work and there being literal pieces of poop in my bathroom sink. I can't do it anymore.
I think that's a really appropriate boundary to have.
In a world where discomfort is actively avoided, therapy is not accessible to many, we have found that talking it out has been a form of free therapy in itself. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Kelly, and we dive into topics like death, divorce, disordered eating, debt, and every taboo topic in between.
With that, who's ready to get taboo? Today, because I was like, well, I'm literally just gonna wash it off in 3 hours,
Yeah.
and I'm regretting that decision. I should have just done a full beat to start.
I just don't know. I'm either 0
is
or
what it
100. There's no in between for me with most things in life, but especially makeup.
It's fine, it's fine. Hi, friend.
Hello.
How doing?
Doing so good. Doing so great. Just thriving in my month, doing my thing. How are you?
Kitty. I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's new? What's happening?
I don't even know.
I know. I feel like nothing new.
Nothing is new.
I feel like this is like almost a blessing, but because we spend so much time together, it's like we don't have as much to like gab on because I'm with you all the time.
I know, it's my favorite new shift that we've had.
Yeah, like I just it like we are, you know, that you're hanging out with someone in a consistent way when like I don't have updates for you because like I'm always with you.
I've told you all of it.
It's almost like I feel like that's why we kind of like geared down a little bit and we just do like a once a week voice memo that's 30 minutes long because like I got nothing. I got nothing to share with you.
I have nothing. So I guess a small update. Kevin and I are kind of looking at like a house that's down the street to rent.
Okay, love that for you.
Yeah, so we so Baka has her house.
Mm-hmm.
The house next to it she owns and Polly rents from her. Mm-hmm. The house on the other side my aunt and uncle own, and our friends rent from them.
How are they your aunt and uncle? Who are they related to?
It's on the Croatian side.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
It's like Baka's family.
Got it.
Technically, so it's kind of weird. So it's I won't get into it, but
Okay,
it's just
cool. I
more
believe you.
Croatians. Anyway, and then on the other side of them, so this is 3 houses down.
Yeah.
The renters that were in there who were terrible. They would like walk around naked and have sex outside.
Ew.
It was just a lot. And
Yeah.
I'm just triggered by that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're finally leaving, or they've left their janky car behind, but whatever. But the house is coming available for rent.
Exciting.
So we're talking about it. We're talking about it.
Right. And you kind of like, you really want to do it, right?
Yes. So I was like, no, we don't need to like spend the money. Like we should be frugal, save our money, not like, be spending our money on rent, yada, yada. And then I talked a little bit about it in therapy. And then I talked a little bit about it to you, and we decided that for my mental health,
Yeah.
this is a really important thing to do.
Yeah.
I cannot take one more winter in this freaking house. I can't take coming home from work and there being literal pieces of poop in my bathroom sink. I can't do it anymore.
I think that's a really appropriate boundary to have.
And
I do.
I was talking about it with Kev, and I was like, look, man, because he's like a little bit more like, I don't want to move just to move again in 6 months when we find something that really checks all our boxes. Like, and he's bringing up very good points, things that we should be considering, right? Logic. I appreciate that. Like, usually he's there to, like, one of us is usually gung-ho about the thing, and then the other person is like, whoa, let's talk about this, which is good.
Yeah.
Because it's not all one way or the other. With this situation, I basically, after like the conversations you and I have had and the more I've thought about it, I'm like, what is 6 more months like of saving money basically versus 6 months of my mental health deteriorating.
Right. Correct.
I'm picking my mental health.
I think you have to. And it's like I said to you, I think in my voice memo, which was 30 minutes. So please, if you haven't listened to it, I get it. But I just relate so much of your experience living with Baca to like my experience living with my ex's mom.
Yeah.
In 2022. And, you know, it's like I think it's really good to save money and to, you know, have goals of like paying off debt or whatever. And I feel like there's always going to be debt to pay off, and you have proven to yourself that you're committed and you've paid off a lot of it. Mm-hmm. I guess it's just like there's always going to be a reason to stay because there's always a reason to save money. And if you go into it with that mindset, you're never going to fucking leave, Chloe.
That's why I've been there for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you're totally right.
I really will say that, like, you know, I don't make enough money ever really to justify this living situation, but I don't think it's a coincidence that when I got out of my living situation of living with a woman who maybe wasn't the most stable and older and just not well.
That's a kind way to put it.
Right? Like when I got out of that was when my life started turning around and I mentally was more stable because I had somewhere that was my space.
Yeah.
Like you said to me yesterday or whenever that was, you were like, I don't really feel like celebrating the holidays because you don't. Yeah. That's sad, dude. That means that you're depressing. You're not in and it's okay. Like I felt that way living with my ex's mom as well. But I just think you've proven to yourself that you are capable of paying off debt. You have been grinding and working hard. It's not that hard to move 3 doors down.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because also the house is like partially furnished, right? Nice. There's like already like a dining room table.
Yeah.
The only thing we really have to move is our bedroom.
Easy.
So a mattress that doesn't even have a frame because we have a mattress on the floor.
Love that.
But I kind of like it, but I'm also ready, I think, for it to be lifted off the floor.
Yeah.
I go in phases.
Yeah.
And a dresser and our clothes. The thing is, like, we can keep our stuff that we have, like, in the garage. Mm-hmm. We can keep it in the garage.
Yeah.
Because it's 3 doors down.
Yep.
Not a big deal.
Nope.
And if we have to move again in a few months, by then, you know, we'll have a couch to also move. That's not crazy. Mm-hmm. So I'm not... to me, like moving 3 doors down and then potentially and that's if we moved in 6 months. It's not even like a for sure thing that we would.
Right.
So for me, like this makes so much sense for mental peace.
Well, and think about it this way. You guys want to move. You have this list of like things that you want in the place that you live. Maybe timing wise, you moving out of Baca's will only get you closer to that dream place because you won't feel so like on edge and stressed out and it'll fall into your lap. You talk to me about that stuff all the time where it's like you have to make those moves, the things that scare you for things to fall into place. Yes, it feels scary to move and I understand the logical like save money, all of that. But I just really, really think you need to choose yourself.
I could not agree with you more. Mm-hmm. And the thing that you said that really stands out to me is the idea that by staying in this place, it keeps me stressed, sick, and small.
Yes.
So I think you're absolutely right. Like if I continue to make those choices to stay in this place, it's limiting. Mm-hmm. It's preventing the things that I do want from coming through. You have to work with the energetics of it. And like if I'm staying here, there's like a lack of self confidence or belief that I'm worthy of having more.
Yeah.
Because it's like by staying here, I'm telling myself like I'm not worthy of more because I have debt essentially. And it's irresponsible and shameful to pass up a free living situation.
Yeah.
When my mental health is rapidly deteriorating.
Right. And that's the thing is there is always that shame around like, well, I need to be saving money. Like I remember living with my ex's mom and it was like, well, I'm about to get married and like we need to be saving for a wedding and it's a free place to live. But it's like I was living in Hillsboro.
Yeah.
I was an hour away from my job.
Yeah.
I was so far from my family. And I do believe like take out like the energetics and all of that, even just logically thinking about the fact that mindset is everything. And if you don't have a place to nest, if you feel uncomfortable in your home, if it feels like you're walking on eggshells, your brain isn't even going to allow you to go to like a place of opportunity. Like you're not going to be able to go to that place of like, oh my God, but we could do this, or I could creatively make this work or be open to anything because you're so, your walls are up so
Dude,
much.
you
know?
could not be hitting the nail more on the head.
It's only because I lived it.
Well, no, it's like, no, it's true. Like you have, and you've been out of it long enough to have the perspective. I think sometimes because like, you can talk yourself into anything,
Correct.
you know? And it's like every time we have this conversation of like, should we start looking for places, whatever, it's just, it keeps going back to like, well, we could do it for a few more months. We keep talking ourselves into
it's cyclical, dude.
And then it keeps you there.
Yep.
And the thing is, I think that there's something to be said for the timing of this house coming available when it did.
I do too.
Because I'm not ready to move away from my sister. Like I really love living next door.
Yeah.
I love being able to like pop over and be like, yo, I need this, like, and just whatever. But also to like be able to be next door, but still have my own place. Like the kitchen is so cute.
It's so cutie.
It has a range stove. And it has a clean bathroom.
Yeah. No poopy.
No poopy. So anyway, I think it's just like I told Kevin, I was like, look, if we go tour it and it checks all the boxes and it's something that we can afford, you're going to get a lot of pushback from me if you say no.
Yeah.
And not that he's not, I don't think he will, but he's a little bit more resistant. And he has been very open and like just said like, look, I am open to it. I just want to make sure it makes sense. And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate the reason. But also we got to fucking go.
Yeah. We got to get out of here.
Which like, I think this kind of leads us perfectly into what we want to talk about, which is therapy. Therp. We won't talk about therp, but it's like this piece of like the mental health piece where it's like what you were saying, if you can't have a place where you feel safe, where you can actually unwind, recharge. Yeah. If your sanctuary, which to me, my sanctuary is my home. Like if that can't serve as a sanctuary for me, it makes everything else in life way, way harder. Yeah. I mean, agree. What was your experience in that kind of situation?
Misery.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. It's no one's fault but my own. I really do feel like where I think people when I was in that situation, there's so much guilt and shame. I think you can relate to it of like when you're living under someone else's roof, like how dare I complain? Yeah. How dare I have opinions or not love every second of it when you get to live for free?
There's so much guilt.
There is.
There's so much guilt around it. You know what it reminds me of is the thing when like women share the difficulties and the struggles of being pregnant. Yeah. And then there's all these people who struggle with fertility and they come after them for complaining. Yeah. And it's like, and they're like, how dare you? Like, you're lucky you can even get pregnant. Okay, sure. Mm-hmm. But you're also allowed to be like, this is hard. My body hurts. Yeah. I'm going through all these emotions and these changes are a mind fuck. Yeah. Like you're allowed to feel both. You're allowed to be grateful that you have a free place to live. And you're also allowed to like acknowledge the fact that your mental health is declining rapidly.
Well, and nobody likes to be around those people. I'm sorry. I can't fucking stand, because I am the way that I am. I can't stand people that it's like, listen, it's a part of my humor and it's a part of how I like process things to be like, it's like along the lines of like self-deprecating and also just being like, holy fucking shit, this sucks. I was just talking to Taylor about like, she gave me the most like wonderful advice that I needed so bad, where she was like, Kelly, I have seen so much growth in you and I have seen you come so far in the last however long it's been. She was like, but like sometimes you don't have to grow. Sometimes things are just shit. And it's okay for you to just be like, this fucking sucks. And I'm like, you know what? Thank you. Because I think toxic positivity is a thing. Yeah. I think it's utter bullshit and it doesn't do a lot for me. And so I think it's the same thing where people, like you're talking about like women that can get pregnant, right? Like I think it's really, really toxic and invalidating to be like, at least you can get pregnant. Yeah. Like, no shit. Like just because I have issues with something doesn't mean I'm not grateful. Yeah. To me, it feels more realistic and honest to be like, it's not perfect.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good point. And I think it's important to like recognize the line where it's like, okay, do I need a mindset shift here? Or am I like leaning into the toxic positivity place
Because it's a thing.
Because there's both. Like
Yeah.
you can, sometimes it is just like, you've got to flip your mindset around something, because sometimes your mindset is what is limiting you and like keeping you in the place that you are. But then sometimes if you're not acknowledging the shit that's hard or anything in that space, and you're just like, oh, well, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like that's toxic.
It is.
And that's where it's a problem. But if what it is just like your mindset around something and how you approach it needs some tweaking, that's different. So I think it's important for people to kind of like figure out where that line is. But
yeah. And I think that when you're living with someone for free, it's like I don't know. I just, there's so much guilt and shame that comes with it. And like this feeling of like, oh my God, if I complain, I'm a terrible person or I'm not gracious. And I even after I moved out really struggled with that, because I also during that time was supposed to be getting married, and it was like, oh my, like everyone would ask how I'm doing, and I wanted to be like, I'm great. I'm living for free and I'm getting married. And like behind closed doors, I was the most unhealthy and miserable I've ever been. I mean, that was when we were talking on the phone every day while you were still in AZ, and like I was not in a good place. I think it was the most out of control I'd ever felt. And so much of that, again, I chose to live there. I'm not saying that, I'm not pointing the finger at anyone. It was a really bad situation. And I really thought, and this ties into therapy, because I think this is my biggest problem with therapy, is that I have a really hard time staying consistent with it, because I have this mindset of like, I know I'm strong. I know I'm strong-willed. I can push through anything. That's toxic. And so when I was living under my ex's mom, or like with my ex's mom and him, I was very much like, okay, it's a tough season. It'll get better.
that's so relatable, dude. That's like what I keep going back to right now. I'm like, it's just a tough season. But then I think about like, no, this is more than that. Like I'm continuing to stay in something that is affecting me.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like your situation, do you think that, well, two questions. Would therapy have been helpful for you at that time? And second question, I can't remember the timeline. So were you ever, like while you were living under that roof, were you ever in therapy at any point when you were there? No.
Nope.
It was before. And it was before you had broken up with the ex prior to that, right?
Correct. Yeah. I've actually, admittedly, as someone who wanted to work in mental health, I have a huge hang up with therapy. And I am going to assume it's nothing profound. I'm going to assume that it's like a fear thing.
Okay.
I guess. But I was in therapy once as a teenager, because I was a teenager and my mom was like, I don't know what to do with you. This is crazy. That didn't last long. I was not open to it. I was 13, 14. I didn't care. Needed it. Didn't open up to it. The only other time was not my most recent ex, but the ex before. There was a lot of trauma there. A lot of shit went down. And so I did go into therapy. And I really liked my therapist. She was so cool. But I guess my hang up with therapy is that I go into it wanting to have these big, profound revelations and unlock all of these things. And I am so self-aware that has never happened to me. My therapist will say things that I'm like, I already know that about myself. No shit that I'm like anxious and I need to get my anxiety under control, or that, you know, I'm too hard on myself, or that my confidence needs to go. Like all of those things, like I think that every day. Anything you say about me, I already know. And therefore I equate therapy with being, and this isn't true, but in my head, it feels a bit like a waste of time. Or like I go to therapy and the therapist starts out with, okay, well, let's start with your childhood. And it's like, you know what? I don't want to.
So we kind of, yes, this takes me back to the conversation we had the other weekend with Taylor.
Yeah.
Of like, that's not a helpful place to start because it doesn't feel purposeful. This is my first time in therapy, really. Like, I mean, when I was a kid, like after some like hard stuff happened, my sister and I were in group therapy for a little bit, but it wasn't really like I mean, there was like, I think it was we were kids.
Yeah.
And so it was therapy for kids in
Yeah.
a group setting, which in some ways was helpful. But this is the first time I've been to kind of like this therapy that you and I are talking about,
Yeah.
right? This like one-on-one.
Like the good talk therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting actually that we both have like close friends to us that are therapists. Maggie's a therapist and Taylor's a
Taylor's
therapist.
there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it is fun like getting together with them because sometimes we'll have like these deep girl talks and then I like appreciate their insight and they're like, well, it might be coming from this. And I'm like, yeah, thanks for the free therapy session.
Yeah.
I owe you one.
I know. I always like sometimes
But-
when I talk too much to Taylor, I'm like, should I tip you?
Yeah.
Should I like
under
the table?
Yeah.
But she's always just like, girl, go to therapy.
Yeah. Like
She's like, Kelly, it's time.
It's time. But what I found like weird at first, but now I understand is when we started, we didn't do the like, okay, tell me about your childhood.
Yeah.
Tell me about your mom. Tell me about your dad.
Yeah,
What's
I
your
don't
family
wanna-
dynamic like? What are all your traumas?
Yeah.
We didn't do any of that shit.
Love that.
Which I was like, do you even want to talk about this?
Yeah.
Or like, but it was just like a, okay, here's what's bothering me. Like, this is what is, I'm finding really hard in my day to day, which
Yeah.
mostly has been around like the living situation with my grandma.
Yes.
Now that we've been working together for close to a year.
Yeah, a year.
Yeah, because I started with her last fall, I think.
Yeah,
I'll have to
remember.
look back. I
Yeah.
can't remember.
I thought it was like November.
I think so. So
Yeah.
we're coming up on a year, which is crazy.
That's awesome.
Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, it was like 6 months ago. I'm like, no, it's double
No,
that.
it's been a year.
But
Yeah.
now, like, you know, now when the day-to-day things come up or like the life things come up, and I'm talking about like different issues, now we're tracing it back to, oh, well, when I was this age, this is how I felt. It's still coming up in this way now.
I think that's what I need. I think I need it to be reversed. Like I want to start with the most recent stuff so that I can just feel like I have control of my life again, or I'm not spinning it with emotions.
Because, okay, I'm thinking about the last time you were in therapy. You would come out of those sessions and like for 2 to 3 days, you were
Fucked up.
I
was
you were
fucked up.
reeling.
Yeah.
And you were like having a really hard time coping with your reality.
It was not good. Nope.
And so I don't think that style of therapy was helpful because there was too much in your day to day that you hadn't even addressed yet. So
Yeah.
how can you go and unpack these other things?
Right.
I understand why, but
Sure.
I think like, I think what I've found helpful in this method is like, okay, we're dealing with the more present stuff so that we can deal with the older stuff.
Right, exactly. Like I think that the present step, like everything stems from your childhood and your trauma. Like I'm a nurture person.
Yeah.
I believe that fully. But I think that I also am just at this point where I do think that childhood stuff will come up naturally, but that I've also processed it. There are some things that I feel like it's not that they don't affect me from my childhood, but it's like it kind of feels tired to talk about, like, tell me your life story. I need.
That's old.
Yeah, it's old.
Yeah.
I think about it every single day of my life. I don't need to work through that. What I do need, and what I'm getting my, like, I start therapy in 2 weeks. No, like a week ish for the first time in like 3 years. And, I'm really, really wanting to focus on like working through my last 2 relationships that were really hard, but also I want there to be some like tools. Like I think more than anything, talking through anything, I just want to learn how to cope with this. And
when she says this, she's pointing to her head.
oh, sorry,
like her
not
mind.
everyone's watching. Yeah, it's what's going on up in my skull that gets really dark and really unsafe. And I think it is just I let my mind take over, and it's just to this point where like I'll turn to my loved ones and you, Taylor, whoever, my sisters, my mom, and I can tell that it's like kind of out of their like hands. Like it's like, yeah, you need to talk to someone. You need to talk to a professional that like, you know, it's bad when it's like nobody knows what to say. And so I think that that's where I'm at is like, from a practical standpoint, I will talk to my therapist about whatever the fuck she thinks I need to talk about, but like, just help me get it under control. Help me with like the physical side of things. And then we can work through the rest. But like my few experiences with therapy were always like, so talk to me about your dad. No.
Yeah.
I have no reason to.
Yeah, unless it comes up like
Naturally.
in a different way. Because like
Yes.
for instance, so I was having this this issue where it's like I've been struggling. I mean, this is just like kind of a perpetual thing, but now recognizing it. It's like, I have a really hard time when everybody around me is not like doing great, or like if everyone around me is not like operating at their best, or like if someone's feeling like emo or like down. And it's like, I go into this role of, okay, like, what can I do to lift you up? And like, what can I do to get you like feeling your best or like doing better?
That's an exhausting way to live, my dude.
No, it is. And it's like, why we've talked about it for a few weeks. And then kind of yesterday we had this kind of breakthrough, like we connected the dots, but it's like, when whatever I say or do doesn't work to get this person, like my partners, my friends, my family, whoever I'm around or engaging with, when I can't get them out of their place, which isn't for me to do, by the way, then I feel so crushed and so deflated because like, well, now I want to have fun with you and I can't because like you're not in a place where you can have fun. So like, okay, that's the issue. That's what I'm uncomfortable with. That's what I'm dealing with. And then it puts me into an emo place because like, well, you're emo and now I'm emo. And it's like, it's not about them anymore. It's about me. So we kind of have been like trying to like, where is this coming from kind of thing.
Do you mind sharing where did like what?
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to like caregivers when I was a kid being like very emo, depressed, sad, and me trying to like come up with what I in my kid brain equated with, you know, being social, having fun, doing exciting things, getting you to a happy place. And those things that my ideas when I'm like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, like aren't working to get, you know, my caregiver out of this dark place.
Right.
Then me feeling like sad because they're sad and I can't fix it. And so now in my adult life, I'm kind of recreating those same scenarios where it's like, oh, you're sad, let me fix it. It doesn't work, then I'm crushed all over again.
Oh my God. That's just like a never ending cycle of letdown.
Exactly. And then, you know, on the flip side too, it's like we talked about, it's like, okay, if I'm like having like an emo time and Kev or someone else is like trying to like get me out of it, it's like, I need to come out of it on my own.
Yeah.
And if they then all of a sudden let my mood affect them, then it makes it even worse.
Well, yeah,
so
because that's so much pressure.
It is. And so it's like, I need them to just like stay consistent and like stay happy and stay in their own energy. And then I'll meet you there.
Yep.
But I wasn't offering the same or haven't been offering that same thing. And then, you know, and to take it one step further too, it comes with like, you know, I think of like times when I was like a kid and I'm like, I want to try ballet or I want to take acting classes or I want to do this thing. And I'm like so excited about it. And then it's like kind of shut down, or it's like, well, you can never make a career out of that, or that's not going to get you anywhere. Like that's not a real whatever. So all these exciting things that I was like thrilled about just getting kind of like squashed or crushed. So now like if I go to like Kev or you or Polly or anyone and I'm like, I have this great idea and I'm just so excited about it, and it's not met with that same excitement, then it's like, you might as well have just told me you didn't like it.
Yeah.
Or like, what a terrible idea. Because it's like, it comes from that place of being like a kid and being excited about an idea and then just having it like not
it's
met
like
with.
that stupid fucking saying I hate, like having your yum yucked.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. But like on like a bigger scale, obviously. Yeah. That's interesting. I understand that. I think I feel the reverse of it, where I don't appreciate when people try to, it's almost like toxic positivity is how it always translates, even if it's not for me. Like if I'm emo, because I'm always emo, always, don't try to bring me up. You know what I'm saying? Where I feel support and what brings me up is people making me feel welcome as an emo person. The people that are still in my life are the people that let me show up exactly how I am. And I am like a darker person. I am. And I like that about myself. Yeah. I do.
I think you have a lot of duality. Like you have range, like where you can be silly, playful, funny, but also you can be deep and like emo and have these other parts of you too. They can
like
exist
together at the same time. Yeah. There's no boxes. You can do both. And I think that it's so important to me, because I have felt a lot of pain in my life where it's like, I feel like I have to like put on the mask, where I have to smile, where I have to perform, where, you know, people expect me to be whatever the case may be. You know, I'm around a lot of like really happy people in my life for a reason. I like that energy so much, and I do think that it grounds me. But it's the minute someone tries to turn it around and be like, no, like you need to be this way. Some of my like worst fights I've gotten into with loved ones are where it's like, just let me be this way.
Yeah.
I want to be lovable at my most down.
Yeah.
And like that, but like, you know, I never thought about it in the way of like, oh, but like the people that love me and care about me, I think you're not the only person in my life who's like this, who like they see someone they love that they're down and they're like,
gotta fix it.
Gonna fix it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do all the things. And it's like, that's not a bad thing. I've learned as an emo person that it does come from a place of love.
Right.
It's so much love.
Yeah.
It's someone caring so much. And I think it's just when brains are built so differently.
But it all, like you're saying, it comes from like a place that's like me not having dealt with like my own shit. You know, like my like, you know, internal stuff. Yeah. So it's like we're interacting together in a way like where we have all these like unhealed things and we're recreating these dynamics. And like, I don't know, it doesn't get us anywhere, because then it's like me trying to like bring you up only perpetuates this place that you don't feel like supported. So it's like both of us, and then I make that about me and like feel crushed.
Oh,
I mean, awful. I think about like a couple years ago, which I think is a really good thing to bring up, like this conversation about therapy, where I was really worried about you. And like, I mean, and there was a lot going on at this time of our lives that we don't need to like bring here. Yeah. But point is, I was really worried about your safety and your mental health. And I think in a way that at the time I felt like it was the best way to do it. But now with hindsight, I know like, okay, I could have approached this differently, and I can share why. But, I wanted you to have professional help. Yeah. But my approach was a problem. And I say that because of where you were at mentally, emotionally. The approach that I took was very like, hey, I'm really worried about you. This has been going on for too long. I don't know what to do anymore. I live too far away to feel like I can keep you safe. I think it's time to like bring a professional into this. Which now, like where you are, like that is information that you could receive in the brain that you're in now. The brain that you were in was not a brain that could receive that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was operating from like, well, if I needed to hear this, I would want her to tell me this. But I had a different, like my chemicals were different than where your chemicals were. And does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think that I've also, like my mom and I talk about this, that like for me with therapy, I'm finally going to it and starting it. Yeah. Because I finally have enough tools to hear those things.
Yeah. And that was my question. What was the shift like from where you were then to where you are now? Like what got you to this place where you're like, okay, I think
want therapy.
Yeah.
A lot of healing on my own. Yeah. I think I had to, and this, I'm not saying this is for everyone, but I think that I don't think this is right anymore. I'm saying that this is what my mindset has been around therapy for so long, is that I think I've always struggled so hard with my mental health deeply. And where I always felt like I was such an open book, I'm like realizing as I learn more about astrology, I'm a deeply secretive person and I'm very like calculated in what I share with people. It's a lot of darkness up there. And so I think that as time has gone on, I always said like people just say go to therapy as a cop out. And so I've been really angry towards therapy for that reason. Hindsight, that's a defense mechanism. Yeah. I think that when people say go to therapy, it's because you need to go to therapy. Yeah. I think if your loved ones are saying go to therapy, go to therapy. But I also do want to speak to the fact that you do have to get there on your own terms. Yes. And I think that for me, I was in such a low place, in such a place of self-hatred, and honestly just wanting the noise to stop. I just wanted it to stop, that I had to prove to myself that I could get through at least a little bit of it on my own. That was where my worth came from. Like and you know, that self-worth is a lifelong journey, but I'm in a much better place now than I was 2020 through 2022. And I think that my confidence started to get rebuilt when I made really hard decisions and like made really life altering decisions for myself where I was like, fuck, okay, I am strong. I am making decisions that are best for me. I do know what's best for me. And I do have this intuition because that was destroyed from shit in the past. And the minute over these last, like this last year and a half of like, I can provide for myself. I can have my own space. I can use my voice. I can be on my own and not have a partner. It hasn't been very long, but I think in the last,
you're proving a lot to yourself.
I'm proving a lot to myself to where I'm like, okay, I healed the urgent things, the things where I was in crisis mode.
Yeah.
Once I got
That's
myself,
a good way to put it.
Like I was in like emergency, like just keeping my body safe mode. And then once I got to a place of like the dust settling and kind of just existing, I was like, I think that if the fine tuning of therapy will put me in a place of good. And I'm on this path of momentum to where I'm like, okay, this feels good. This feels right. Maybe if I talk to a professional, everything will fall into place. Or I can have the tools to like the parts that aren't great right now, I can get my shit together. Or like, it won't be so devastating. I won't have an argument with someone and I have to call out of work, or I won't have to like, take something someone said that like makes me feel rigid or insecure and spiral for a week about it and then call you and be like, okay, I'm fine again.
Well, but I think you said a couple of things that I think
tangent
are
over.
Brilliant. No, first, being in crisis mode, like that, like being able to identify that period as that's what was going on.
It's crazy.
And to bring it back to what we talked about when we started this conversation is our home environment perpetuating the crisis.
Yeah.
I think
being a symptom of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's more than just a symptom. I think a lot of the other things are a symptom, but it feeds into staying there. Yeah. So it's like this cycle, like you already said this, but
an abusive cycle.
Yeah. It's like the home environment is toxic and it makes everything else that is already hard about life way harder to deal with.
Correct.
Because you can't actually completely recharge, reset, and then go back into the world. Like even your home is hostile. Then because you can't deal with everything else, you can't even really engage with it. And then it makes it harder to even leave the toxic home environment or the toxic relationships or all of it, and then you stay in this negative feedback loop where it's like the house is terrible. Life is hard because of the house. And then you just can't escape any of it.
And you don't remember anything else.
No, exactly. And so then everything just feels that much harder because now you're in this place where you are completely depleted.
Yeah.
You just can't get ahead is what it feels like.
Yeah.
And so like now I'm kind of like we talked about, I'm in that place where I know logically the thing that I need to do to like really kind of help myself take off. But it's hard to take because I'm having this like internal dialogue of like,
there's this feedback loop.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to that shame piece. It's like, well, that's irresponsible of you to leave, a free this, but it's like, it's not about the fucking money.
No, it's not. And I think I said this to you in my voice memo that I think I sent you yesterday, maybe Thursday, but I said, and I'm speaking from a place of experience that I think living in a situation like yours right now with Baca,
but also what you did,
or mine with my ex's
you
mom,
were there for how long?
A year and a half.
Yeah. Okay. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. And, it's like an abusive relationship.
It is.
And you can't escape because there's big scary things that have to happen for you to get out of it. And it's toxic. It's like a toxic cycle.
No, it is. And two things I want to say. I mean, we have all these like funny stories and things with Baca, right? Like it's comical at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But when you're living in it and just like how you were living in a very similar situation with someone who's narcissistic and
crazy, just nuts
and just mentally ill.
Yeah.
With no coping skills. Yeah. And enmeshment tendencies. They're like, even though you can have these ridiculous stories, the day to day is absolutely a living hell.
Yeah. And it's
a living hell. Well, you can have these moments that are fine.
Right.
But like when your baseline is hell on earth, like how can you
have that's the thing is like, you can't really heal when you're living in an environment like that.
And that's, you just brought me to the next thing I wanted to say, that I have seen your life absolutely transform the moment you decided to get your own place.
Yeah. It was a big pivotal moment.
It was absolutely like everything else that has gone right in the last year, right? It's been a year or longer.
Year and a half.
Yeah. Everything that has gone right, all the changes that you've made, all the decisions that you've made for yourself started with getting out of that place.
And I think that's why I'm pushing you.
I think so.
And here's the thing is that I think what is really fortunate is that you are doing therapy while living in the thing. I think that it is making it to where you are less volatile,
less reactive
than
totally.
I was. I was in an environment where everyone around me was reactive and abusive to each other. So it was like, that was all I knew. And I also just, my first reaction to anything is anger. So it's really, really, it was a slippery slope. But I think like tying it into therapy, I think when you live in an environment like that, like therapy isn't the answer to fixing your problems. I think that therapy is your support. I think that therapy is your crutch in a lot, not your crutch, but like therapy is like the hand that's holding you while you're moving through difficult situations in life. It isn't an answer to all of the things.
And it kind of keeps you accountable too, because it's
I
like
love that.
Like, how embarrassing is it? Or just like, fuck, now I have to go to therapy and tell her, like, I don't know.
I did the thing.
I talked about.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's no judgment there either. It's like, okay, here's what happened this week. I completely freaked out.
Yeah.
For absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
I did some ugly things. And it's a place to like, okay, well, let's peel it back.
Yeah.
Where was your mindset? What were you feeling? What led up to this? And then now, okay, we can dissect all of that. How do we maybe try not to do that again, since it feels so icky? It's not even that far. Like a lot of the times it's just like, okay, like let's just observe that for now. Like we don't need to fix it today.
No.
And that's most of what it is. It's like making the discovery and then just kind of sitting with it. And then now for the next few weeks, months, whatever, now I can reflect on when like we just talked about, when I feel like deflated because someone else isn't ready to be happy with me. That is something to sit with and observe my feelings and like, and have empathy for the little 7-year-old, the 8-year-old that wants to play,
like healing that inner child.
Yeah. And just be like, it's okay that you want to play. We can go play in a different way.
Yeah.
This person isn't ready to play right now.
Yeah.
That is not something I would have been able to do last year when I was really volatile, really reactive, like unable to engage or participate in anything. Everything felt so hard.
What pushed you to start therapy?
It just felt like it was time.
Okay.
To be honest.
I think that's what's important. You have to do it on your own terms.
It was just like, and the thing is, it's not that I didn't want to before. I didn't really have the resources before.
I also struggled with that throughout my adult life.
And I think that's a big thing to acknowledge, is that like good therapy is kind of inaccessible sometimes, and there's options, but like if you're going through your insurance, if you have insurance, the wait lists are really long. And then I think for a lot of people who are really in the thralls of it, when that momentum leaves you, it's really hard to get yourself back to it. Like when you have the momentum. I feel like you're calling me out,
and I love it.
No.
I'm just saying. No, I know you're not. It's just like that is exactly. I didn't have the momentum to take care of myself.
Yeah. So it's like when you have that momentum, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to get signed up, and then you find out, oh, it's a 3-month wait list.
Yeah, it's defeating.
Like it's like, what the hell? I'm ready right now, and it's kind of like those manic depressive cycles.
Well, and to be honest, when you are in the darkest of places, you can't even picture your life 3 months from now.
No.
So when you hear that timeline, it's like, well, that doesn't.
How am I going to get to 3 months from now?
You think I can make it to 3 months? Well, you can, by the way. But like, I think that is such a problem with therapy, and it doesn't help that it's like, I would say it's inaccessible to most people. Therapy is a huge fucking privilege. And if you're on like Oregon Health Plan, which is like basic, whatever, they give you have a list of about, I don't know, this is dramatic, but like 15 therapists in the city, and all the thousands of us that are on OHP have to like share. So yeah, you're looking at like, especially when I was needing therapy in the time when I was in my darkest place, 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
I think that the mental health crises that we are dealing with right now, that needs to be quicker.
And like the system is so overburdened.
Yeah, it is.
It'd be interesting to have like Taylor and Maggie kind of give their perspectives on what it's like on the provider's side of things.
What kind of therapy does Maggie do?
She does private practice.
Nice.
She really enjoys couples therapy.
Ooh, I would also enjoy
she
that.
also does individuals.
Nice. Cool.
But it's interesting too, like hearing from her perspective of like when you have to kind of like break up with a client. Like when your abilities don't match their needs.
Yeah.
That's a hard conversation to have. And
Yeah.
I feel like I can't
and
imagine
I think
having
that's
to do
really
that.
important to talk about with therapy is like Taylor tells me all the time, you know, she's so supportive of me starting to go to therapy and like she's just a huge advocate for it. And but she has been so on my ass about you need to establish the guidelines for what you want out of the therapy and speak up for yourself.
Yeah.
Do not let someone take the reins and be like, so tell me about your childhood. No, I'm here. Here are my goals. And then all the other shit that I know I need to unpack. I'm not in denial. I'm sure there's hard stuff I need to talk through from my past,
But that'll come up organically.
But like to put all the focus on like I'm not here. That doesn't feel healing to me to sit here and like point my finger at everyone who has done me dirty. There's people currently who I need to work through that have actually done me dirty with intention that I can't heal the inner child if I don't heal the stuff that's happened recently.
Yeah. You know, like this stuff that is happening now is going to guide that discovery of the childhood stuff and like the internalizing that we've done kind of in our formative years. That's what we're talking about when that's going to come up organically. So,
but like going in with a plan, like, hey, Mrs. or Mr. Therapist, these are my goals,
which I love that. I think that I think that's a really great way to kind of like tie everything up of what we're talking about. It's like, okay, if you are now in a place where you are ready to take on therapy and like you're ready to kind of work through this stuff with someone and handle the day-to-day things that are stressing you out or causing you discomfort. When you find a provider, going in with like this is exactly what I am here to address. This is the stuff that I find really hard. And I want tools for this.
Yes.
I have a hard time engaging with these people. I have a hard time when this like instance or this scenario comes up over and over. I find myself reacting this way. Like I want to address that. And the other stuff is going to come up. It will, because it's
you. It's a part of you.
It's what influences the stuff that's bothering you. That's like, I think the biggest takeaway I've had is like the old stuff comes up in the day-to-day stuff. So you have to work through the day-to-day stuff to be able to even get a glimpse into the other stuff
and getting there organically. Right. And like, there are some situations, life is complicated. I can't speak to them where it's like things happen where it's like, okay, I need to immediately start talking to someone because this is so heavy. But I am such an advocate for, I never thought I would be ready for therapy. One of my best friends in the world is a therapist, and she's been telling me for years that when I get to that place, like therapy is so helpful. My family, you have brought it up, and I did not react well to it because I am someone that like, I can't be pushed. I have to get there on my own terms. And I know that there's other people out there where it's like, there is this pressure, or it can feel really invalidating for someone to answer like you're talking to them about something that hurts and their answer is like, go to therapy. And it's like, it feels like
a cop out.
Yeah. Or like in my most like ugly defensive days, I'd be like, wow, you're just uncomfortable because you can't handle what I'm saying. And now in hindsight, I'm like, and that's fucking valid. I'm sharing some dark, heavy shit, you know?
Yeah. And that's something that I've learned from just engaging with different people. I think my sister is one of them, but it's like, kind of asking if the person is in a space where they can receive something heavy before you just
dump on them. Yep.
That's a big one. And then I think lastly, the last thing I want to touch on is like, which we touched on, but finding someone whose skills or area of focus matches your needs.
Yeah. Shop around.
And like, this is no surprise, but my therapist, she's a psychotherapist, but she's also an astrologer.
No way.
Can't
even believe it. Groundbreaking.
So, it's like being able to speak my language with her, and it offers just this extra layer of insight because it's how I process things.
Yeah.
That was so important to me when I was looking for a provider, and it's something that I'd been wanting for a lot of years. And that's also part of the reason it took me a long time, is because I was like very specific about what I wanted.
Right.
And I think it took a while to find that, but I'm so glad that I did wait. I did try to like BetterHelp and some other stuff like on the way. And I think it was like kind of a bridge. It was like something to at least like get the ball rolling, but it wasn't it for me. So now, like, you know, being a year into this with this person who like offers this extra layer, I just think that was like such a key factor for me in finding like my person.
Yeah.
And even I got recommendations from other people who it's like, they like are so connected with their therapist, but it's like, something was just not, it didn't feel like the full package for me.
Yes.
So like, I think if you're someone who struggles like with a specific, like if it's like a specific mental health, like ADHD, there's people who really specialize in that, or obsessive compulsive disorders, or like bipolar issues or eating disorders. Like there's so many like specific, niche areas where it can be helpful. Or someone who like specializes in like EMDR, which is like that tapping therapy.
Yeah.
Or in the eye
rapid eye movement.
Yeah. I honestly don't fully understand it, but I'm so interested in it.
Yeah.
Like that somatic therapy, I think is what I'm kind of getting at. But all that to say,
exposure therapy is my jam.
Yeah. Yes.
I want to do it so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So I'm really excited that you are starting this in a couple weeks, and I think it couldn't have come at a better time. And I think that's like, I mean, I always bring it back to this, but energetically the timing couldn't be better because it's right on time. You know, you're ready for it.
Yes,
and
exactly.
it's like you're in a place where you can receive it and actually use it.
It's like, I understand that humans are always growing, but I feel like this last year has just been like, a year and a half has been like constant, big, uncomfortable changes. And it feels like me going into therapy is kind of the final chapter of like this, hopefully, knock on wood, this very difficult season.
Dude, I didn't even think about it. So I'm going to bring it back to the astrology.
Of course.
So
shocking.
We'll end here. But I started therapy when I started having eclipses in my 12th house.
Okay.
Which is the place of mental health.
Okay.
And subconscious. The new eclipse set that we just started is now happening in your 12th house.
Cutie.
So of course you're starting therapy.
Of course I'm starting therapy. Yeah. I'm literally going to Boston, and then that next week. So a week after this upcoming one.
Of course you're starting therapy now. It's right on time.
And how symbolic that I'm going to Boston, which is like very attached to my childhood and all
roots.
of that. It's just all really symbolic and cute.
Cutie.
But it's just, go to therapy when you're ready. When people tell you to go to therapy, it's because they love you and they care about you.
Yeah.
But also,
and even though it can feel really hurtful.
Yeah. But also like I think people are totally valid to want to try to get to a certain goal point, because therapy isn't the answer for your immediate shit. It's like,
therapy is a facilitation of something. I don't know if that's a word. Facilitation. I think I just made that up.
Nope, that's a word.
Okay. Yep. Well, we're rolling with it. It facilitates your process, but the point is it's your process. You are accountable for the work and getting yourself there. It's just someone to help guide you there.
It's like a maintaining tool is how I see it, instead of like a quick
accountability.
Fix.
Yeah.
It's like we're going to get you to a healed place, and then we're going to keep you consistent.
Yeah.
It's not like this trauma happened and like fix me now, which has been my mistake.
Yeah.
You know, so everyone's on their own journey.
And that's not a mistake. That's been your process.
No, I couldn't have asked. No, because I actually want it now. I've never wanted it in my life until now. And I had to go through all of that to get to that place. So it's like, while everyone is in therapy for a reason, and I think it's really important that people are in therapy, I do think you have to get there on your own. And that is what I will say about that.
I could not agree more. Retweet.
But we don't retweet anymore. What is it now? Re-X?
I can't even participate.
I don't know.
That. this rebrand, I don't identify with it. I refuse to accept it.
I love
anyway,
that. It's 'cause
where
of
can everyone
millennials.
find you?
Everyone can find me on Instagram at Kelly A. Weld. I spell Kelly really weird. I spell it Kellie.
You spell so cutie.
It's cutie. It's girly. It's fun. It's flirty. It's none of those things.
It's not demure.
Oh, that's rude. I feel like Y's are, I don't, okay, sometime we got to talk about this. Like, I'm very specific about my letters. There's like really awesome letters and really awful letters.
I hate the letter C.
I hate the letter Y. I do not like names that end with a Y. Nope. Hate it.
What about Polly?
Well, Polly's a mad cute name. Sorry, Polly. But like, I don't love names that end in Y.
I don't know how to respond.
Anyway, I think that K's and X's are really cool letters.
I just don't like word or names that start with a C. Like, I
Really?
wish I had a better, like, okay, here are the good first initials.
Yeah.
L,
Yes.
M, R, K,
K's
A,
cool.
T, P. We'll go with that.
Okay.
Those
You
are
don't
the
like
good
C
ones.
names?
No, it's just like, think about like if I was to get a necklace with my initial on it, a C, not cute. It's not cutie.
I guess I agree, but I think the
stand by
name
that.
Chloe's a really good name.
I'll give you that.
Until it
Except
became
for-
a dog name.
Yeah, now all my patients are like, oh, that's my dog's name. I'm like, I know.
Oh
I
God,
know
that's
it
awful.
is.
No, Chloe's such a cute name. Okay. Anyway, yeah, you can find me Kelly A. Weld on Instagram or Kelly Weld on TikTok.
And I am Chloe Chloe ANAMIKELE. That's Chloe Anna McKell on all socials. And you can find us at Let's Get Taboo on Instagram. Twitter? We're not on Twitter. It's not even Twitter.
It's not even Twitter
What
anymore.
am I trying to say? TikTok.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
TikTok is by far better,
Instagram,
yeah.
TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can watch us on Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. And look for us on our socials. We're posting a lot of fun content there.
Yeah, that's kind of our goal right now. We're
having
shifting.
fun.
We're having fun.
Yeah.
It's Libra season. That's
It's
what
Libra
we do.
season. So follow, subscribe so you can see all the updates.
Yeah.
Okay. Love you
All right.
guys.
Thanks, guys. Oh my God. I, for some reason, just got so tired.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think what time is it? It's 1:20?
Yeah.
Fuck, dude.